When I took my son to visit his grandparents for Easter, my mom closed the door in our faces and said, "We don't want you here anymore." I hadn't been back to Red Hollow in over 2 years, not since the divorce paperwork hit the table and my whole life collapsed like wet cardboard. My son Finn, now 7, had been asking about seeing his grandparents again, and with Christmas coming up, I figured it might be time. Against my better judgment, I texted my mother, Denise, a week before, just to be sure. "Still okay if we come?" I asked. She only responded with 2 words, "Just come." No smiley face, no warmth. That should have told me everything. The drive-in was quiet. Snow caked the roads near the state line, and Finn kept asking if Nana still had her dog, Murphy. I told him she did, but honestly, I wasn't sure anymore. The house on Deerbrush Lane looked exactly the same, cheap lights dangling from the roof like they were ashamed to be there, and that crooked plastic Santa still leaning off the porch like he was trying to escape. I had this pit in my stomach the second I parked the car. Something didn't feel right. Finn was all excited when we stepped onto the porch, clutching a little box of sugar cookies we baked that morning. I knocked. The door opened after a few seconds, and there stood my sister Brielle, hoodie, no makeup, scrolling through her phone like we were the mailman. "You're late," she muttered without even looking at us. We weren't late. If anything, we were early by 10 minutes. I didn't respond. I looked past her into the house. Clay, my younger brother, was on the couch with his feet up, glued to his phone. Dad, Hank, was already nursing a whiskey in the kitchen, the first one, I assumed, out of many. We stepped in, and the energy in the room was cold. No one said hello. No hugs. Denise appeared from the dining room and gave us a once-over, her eyes resting on Finn like she didn't recognize him. "You brought him," she said flatly. I nodded, unsure what she meant. She didn't even glance at the cookie tin. I asked if she needed help in the kitchen, but she waved me off like I was interrupting something sacred. That's when I noticed the plastic tablecloth, disposable plates, dollar store centerpiece, and not a single homemade dish. This woman used to spend days prepping cranberry casseroles no one liked, and now she couldn't be bothered to do more than microwave green beans. Something was wrong. We sat down eventually, though no one invited us to. Finn pulled out a napkin and started drawing spaceships with the pen I gave him earlier. He was trying hard to stay quiet, polite, maybe hoping this would go smoother than I warned him. I tried to talk to Brielle, asked how work was going, but she just scrolled TikTok and shrugged. Clay didn't even glance up. Dinner began with no prayer, no toast, just chewing and fork scraping paper plates. Then my uncle, Gordy, leaned in with this fake smile. "Still playing single, Dad, huh?" he asked. I gave a tight smile. "Still doing great, thanks." My cousin Drew laughed and said, "Brutal." I bit my tongue so hard it almost bled. Finn picked at his food, but tried to be polite. Denise kept glancing at him like he was some stray animal that wandered in off the street. He looked at me at least 5 times during dinner like he was checking to see if he was doing something wrong. I whispered, "You're doing perfect, bud," and gave his shoulder a squeeze. I thought maybe we'd just make it through the night, pretend everything was normal, let Finn have a Christmas that didn't involve tension or pain. But that hope died fast. Right after dinner, Brielle stood up and left the room. A few seconds later, she came back carrying 2 giant black garbage bags and dropped them right next to my chair. Loud, like she wanted everyone to hear. "Here," she said, arms crossed. "You're not family anymore." I swear time stopped. Clay laughed through his nose, Drew snorted, and even Hank gave a slow nod like he agreed. Denise didn't flinch. She looked at Finn and said, "He doesn't belong here either. He's just a reminder of all your bad choices." I sat there frozen, eyes locked on the bags. I didn't know what was inside. I didn't care. My hands were shaking, but I kept my face calm because Finn was staring at me with wide, scared eyes. He thought he did something wrong. He whispered, "Dad, are we in trouble?" I shook my head and stood up. That's when Brielle stepped in front of me like a bouncer. "Where do you think you're going?" she said with a smirk. I told her to move. She didn't. She just said, "Make me." I stepped forward. She shoved me back, not hard, but hard enough that I stumbled and nearly dropped my phone. Finn bolted up. Denise reached for him and said, "Sit down." He yanked his arm away and yelled, "Don't touch me." It was the first time I'd ever seen him raise his voice at anyone. I stepped between them and told her, loud and clear, "Do not lay a hand on my son." That's when Hank slammed his fist on the table. "Stop making this a scene," he barked, glass sloshing in his hand. "You always have to ruin everything." I grabbed Finn's jacket, pulled him close, and picked up those 2 trash bags without even looking at them. Clay muttered, "Classic Jace. Can't handle a little honesty." Brielle pushed the front door open so hard it cracked against the coat rack. We walked outside into the snow. Finn was sniffling, trying to zip his coat, but his hands were trembling. I knelt in the driveway and zipped it for him while staring back at the house. Clay stood in the doorway, phone in hand, like he was going to record me. I stared him down until he disappeared. I strapped Finn in, got in the driver's seat, and just sat there, phone in my hand, heart racing. I couldn't even start the car. My phone buzzed. It was my friend Cal. I had sent him a quick text earlier. "Can't do this." He replied, "Where do you want to go?" I didn't answer. I was staring at the steering wheel, still trembling. Finn asked again if we were in trouble. I told him no. "Not today, kiddo." Later, after I got him home and asleep, I opened those bags. Inside were some torn t-shirts, a broken headset from when I was 15, and my high school yearbook. Stuff they'd clearly just cleared out of my old room like I died or something. It felt like a purge, a full-on erasure, as if I had never existed to them at all. I closed the bags and put them in the closet. Not because I wanted to keep the junk, but because I needed the reminder. I had told them at that table, "Thanks. I'll remember this." And I meant it. Every word. When we got back to the apartment, Finn fell asleep in the car before I even turned the corner onto our street. I carried him up the stairs, tucked him in without waking him, and then just stood there in the hallway for a while, unsure what to do with myself. The silence felt like punishment, but not for anything I did wrong, more like a vacuum that pulled every unfinished sentence, every insult, every look of disgust my family threw my way back into my head all at once. I wanted to scream, but instead, I sat on the kitchen floor with the fridge door open, eating leftover lo mein that tasted like rubber and ignoring the cold air on my knees. My phone buzzed once with a calendar reminder, rent due in 4 days. I had already paid it last week. I paid it early, because I still believed in stability even when the people closest to me didn't. The next morning, Finn woke up and asked if Murphy, the dog, was okay. I told him I wasn't sure, but I'd try to find out. He didn't push, just nodded, then asked if we could make pancakes. We did. He drowned his in syrup, made a face at the soggy middle, and still ate every bite. I sat across from him, watching him laugh at some cartoon on his tablet, and I remember thinking how unfair it was that this kid, this kind, gentle kid, had to carry even a single second of doubt about whether he belonged somewhere. He shouldn't have had to fight for space at a table his blood helped build. By the 3rd day after we got back, something inside me clicked in a way I wasn't expecting. Not rage, not heartbreak, just clarity. I started going through my email accounts and paper files, checking what was still in my name and what wasn't. Turned out, quite a lot was. The bakery lease in Red Hollow? My signature was still on it as a co-signer. The car Clay drove? In my name. The utilities for their house and the business? On my credit. They never updated anything. When I brought it up months ago, they said it was easier this way because you know how to handle that stuff. They never even asked if I was okay with it. They just assumed I'd keep doing it forever. I texted my friend Cal, "What happens if I just pull everything?" He sent back 4 laughing emojis and said, "Do it. Let them figure it out." So I did. I logged into the shared accounts I had access to, pulled every dollar that was legally mine, left the minimum balances to avoid overdrafts, and then transferred my shares into a private savings account I opened under a new bank. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't leave notes. I just deleted the app, shredded the old statements, and moved on like it never existed. The power felt strange, not thrilling, not cruel, just justified. Next, I called my lawyer. Not some big-shot attorney, just the same guy who helped me during the divorce. Told him I needed out of the bakery agreement, off the utilities, and that I wanted to revoke my financial guarantee on the lease. He asked if I was sure. I told him I had never been more certain of anything in my life. "All right," he said, "send me the paperwork." I did. Took photos with my phone, scanned the rest, and emailed everything that afternoon. Within hours, he confirmed it was in motion. It would take a few days, but the wheels were turning. I didn't say a word to anyone. I waited. The first hint of fallout came 2 days later, when Brielle sent a message to our old group chat, which I'd muted long ago. Anyone know why the cards are frozen? I'm at the gas station and they aren't working. Clay replied with a shrug emoji. Nobody tagged me, but I knew they knew. I waited another day. That's when the real chaos started. The texts began to pile up, first from Brielle, then Clay, then my mom. She didn't say hello. Her message just read, "Urgent. Call me. Now." I blocked her number. Later that night, Finn asked if we'd be seeing Nana and Pop again. I told him, not for a while, but. He nodded, then asked if we could get pizza on Friday. Extra cheese, he said. I told him we'd get two. He high-fived me and went back to his game. That moment kept me grounded, even as the group chat lit up with confused panic. My cousin Drew DM'd me on Instagram. "Yo, my mom's freaking out about the store's account. Did something happen? Can you look into it?" I left him on read. The next morning, Clay called me 3 times in a row. No voicemail. Then Brielle again. Then another blocked number. I let every call die in silence. I wasn't curious. I was done. The more desperate they got, the clearer it became that none of this was about love. It wasn't about family. It was about convenience. I had become their walking, breathing safety net, and now that it had collapsed, they were scrambling like kids whose favorite toy broke and couldn't be replaced. On the 4th day, I got a message from the landlord. Technically, their landlord, but I was the co-signer on the lease. He wrote, "Hey, just confirming. You want to revoke your guarantee? If so, rent is due in full by Thursday, or I start the eviction process." I wrote back, "Do it." He didn't ask questions, just replied, "Okay." I took a screenshot and sent it to my lawyer just to cover my ass. That night, while Finn slept in a blanket fort we built together in the living room, I sat in the hallway with a beer and stared at the 2 black trash bags still sitting in the closet. I hadn't touched them since that night. I thought about throwing them out, but something in me said no. Not yet. They were my receipt. My evidence. Proof that even blood can turn toxic when it's mixed with entitlement. The silence was deafening. But for once, it felt clean. It wasn't grief. It was peace. And I wasn't giving it up. Not for them. Not ever again. The first real crack in their world came when I checked the business account and saw it had dipped into the negative. I didn't even know they were still using it like that. I had assumed after all this time, someone, anyone, would have taken responsibility, updated paperwork, done something halfway responsible. But no. They just let everything ride on my name like it was some cursed inheritance they could cash out anytime things got uncomfortable. I took another screenshot, sent it to my lawyer with a short message. "Still not my problem, right?" He replied, "You're in the clear. Let them explain it to the bank." That same day, the texts started coming from people I barely remembered. Some cousin on my dad's side messaged me on Facebook asking if I could help Aunt Denise figure out the payment situation. I didn't answer. My Uncle Gordy emailed me a long paragraph saying how families argue, but blood is thicker than pride. Like he wasn't the same guy laughing at the table when my sister dumped trash bags at my feet. I forwarded the email to Cal just so someone could laugh with me. His response was one line, "This is better than TV." By the 5th day, my dad tried calling. He left one voicemail. I listened to it on speaker while folding laundry. "You've done enough damage," he growled. "You think you're so clever. You think this won't come back around? You're ruining your mother." I deleted it and finished folding Finn's shirts. I didn't even flinch. Not once did he ask how Finn was, if we were okay, if maybe they went too far. Just blame. Just threats. Just noise. Brielle posted something passive-aggressive to her Instagram story. One of those quotes over a black background. Something like, "Funny how the people you help the most stab you first." I only saw it because Cal screenshotted it and sent it to me with a caption, "They're cracking." I checked the bakery's page for the hell of it. The comments were turned off, no updates since before Christmas, and their holiday promo post had been deleted. Probably couldn't afford the discounted cinnamon rolls anymore. I laughed harder than I should have. Later that night, Finn asked if we could make hot chocolate with the fancy marshmallows, by which he meant the kind shaped like stars that cost $3 more. I said yes. We sat on the couch watching some space cartoon he liked, and for a minute, I forgot how angry I was. He leaned on my arm, half asleep, and whispered, "Thanks for not being mean like them." That hit harder than anything else could have. The following morning, I woke up to an email from the landlord with a scanned copy of the formal eviction notice. Apparently, no one paid the rent when the guarantee was removed. They had 3 days. I almost felt bad. Almost. But then I remembered my mom's face when she said Finn didn't belong and that he was just a reminder. I remembered my brother laughing, my sister smirking, my father sitting there drinking like it was all entertainment. Whatever pity, I had disappeared with that memory. My cousin Drew texted again, more desperate this time. "Dude, everyone's panicking. Please just talk to your mom before this gets worse." I left it on read and muted him. Let them panic. Let them scramble. I didn't burn the bridge. They did. I just walked away before it collapsed with both of us on it. On day 6, Brielle called from a different number. When I picked up, she immediately launched into rapid-fire questions. "Why are you doing this? What did we ever do to you? Don't you care what happens to this family?" I let her finish. Then I said, calm as ever, "You threw my life in a bag and called it trash. What do you think happens after that?" She got quiet for 2 seconds, then called me selfish and hung up. Cal and I grabbed dinner that night at a little Mexican place down the street. He toasted to taking out the trash, which made me laugh even though I didn't want to. He told me I looked different, lighter, calmer. I hadn't noticed, but I believed him. I still checked my phone more than I should have, still expected some explosion, some final twist. But it never came the way I thought it would. Instead, it came quietly through a message from my ex. "Your mom called me. Said she needed to talk." I blocked her. "Thought you should know." I thanked her and asked if she was okay. She laughed. She tried the whole, "You know how emotional he can be" routine. I told her I wasn't falling for it. "We're good." That settled something in me I didn't know was still loose. At least one person had my back. The next 2 days, I didn't hear anything. Not a single message. Not a call. Nothing on social media. No dramatic posts, no vague threats. Just radio silence. I should have felt relief, but it felt eerie instead, like the eye of a storm where everything goes still before the real chaos hits. I took Finn to the park to get my mind off it. We brought a football, and he insisted on being quarterback the entire time. His throws were terrible, but I caught every one like it was a touchdown. We grabbed burgers on the way home and sang along to every song on the radio, even the ones I hated. That night, he fell asleep hugging Murphy, the stuffed version I bought him after I realized he wouldn't get to see the real one again. Right before bed, I checked my email and found another message from the landlord. Final notice. If payment wasn't made by Monday, the locks would be changed. I forwarded it to my lawyer and added, "Keep me out of this." He replied, "Already done. You're free." That word stuck with me. Free. For the first time in years, I didn't owe them anything. Not money. Not time. Not explanations. That night, I sat in bed and stared at the ceiling while Finn snored softly from the other room. I didn't know what they would do next. I didn't care. I had made my move. Now it was their turn to deal with the fallout. I wasn't going back. I wasn't looking back either. It was just after 2 in the morning when my phone lit up on the nightstand, vibrating hard enough to shake the lamp beside it. I blinked at the screen, still half asleep, trying to understand why I had missed 7 calls in a row from Clay, along with a few from Brielle and one number I didn't recognize. I sat up, wiped the sleep from my eyes, and opened the first text. "You win," it read. "Mom's screaming. Dad's drunk. Everything's falling apart. Please call." I scrolled down and saw another message from Brielle, all caps this time, saying, "Please. We don't know what to do. They're going to lose the house." There was a moment, just a flicker, where I almost felt something. Not guilt exactly, but a weird kind of ache in my ribs, the kind that used to show up when I was a kid watching our parents fight in the kitchen while pretending not to hear them from upstairs. But then I remembered the driveway. I remembered standing there, zipping up Finn's jacket while my brother tried to record us leaving like we were part of some joke. Whatever pity had crept into my chest disappeared the second I thought of that. I didn't reply. I didn't call. I just flipped the phone face down, sat back against the headboard, and listened to the silence like it was the first peaceful thing I'd heard all year. I could hear Finn breathing softly from the other room. That sound kept me grounded. That sound reminded me what mattered and what didn't. I wasn't their fixer anymore. I wasn't their punching bag either. If their world was collapsing now, it was only because they built it on a foundation made of ego, denial, and the assumption that I'd always be there to hold it together. Around 2:45 a.m., another text came through, this time from an unknown number. We can't get into the accounts. The bank won't talk to us. Grocery cards declined. Is this you? What did you do? It was almost impressive, the way they could spiral straight into accusation without ever once acknowledging what started all of this. Still no apologies. No ownership. Just panic and finger-pointing. Just like always. I got out of bed, walked to the kitchen, and poured a glass of water. The quiet felt heavier now, not in a bad way, just like a room that finally emptied after too many people had been shouting inside it for too long. I stood by the window and watched the streetlights buzz over the snow-covered sidewalks, then checked my phone again. Brielle had sent one last message. You don't understand what this is doing to Mom. She hasn't slept. She hasn't eaten. She's falling apart. If you have any decency left, please fix this. I set the phone down without answering. That morning, Finn asked if we could get cinnamon rolls from the cafe 2 blocks away. We bundled up and walked there in the cold. He held my hand the whole time and told me about the book he was reading in class, something about space pirates and robot dogs. I nodded along, smiling, pretending I wasn't thinking about the messages waiting on my phone. But I was. I knew it wasn't over. They weren't going to go down quietly. Back at home, I opened my laptop and logged into the landlord's portal just to check. Sure enough, the final notice was there, plain as day. 3 days to vacate. No extensions. No payment. No appeal. The locks were being changed on Thursday. I took a screenshot and filed it away. Then I made lunch for Finn, helped him finish a math worksheet, and let him pick the movie for the night. He chose something animated, with talking animals and fart jokes. We laughed like idiots. I forgot the storm for 2 hours. That evening, Clay called again, but this time he left a voicemail. His voice was shaky. He's gone, he said. Dad just left, took the truck, and drove off. Mom's losing it. She keeps screaming, won't stop pacing. I don't know what to do. We don't have anywhere else to go. I deleted the message without listening to the end. I didn't want to hear it. I already knew how it ended. It ended with me giving in, and I wasn't doing that again. Later that night, my sister posted a story to Instagram. It was a dark picture, just the corner of their living room, boxes stacked in the background, and a caption that read, "When loyalty is one-sided, pain becomes permanent." I almost laughed. The same woman who physically blocked me from leaving a room after telling me I wasn't family was now crying about loyalty. I closed the app and turned off my phone. The next day, I took Finn to the museum downtown. He liked the dinosaur bones, the old astronaut suit, and the room full of mirrors. I bought him a souvenir snow globe, and he said it was the best day ever. That night, we got pizza, extra cheese, like I promised, and I let him stay up late playing video games. It was our little celebration, not for their downfall, but for our freedom from it. By the end of the week, my lawyer sent me a final confirmation. Your name is off everything. The business, the lease, the utilities, the vehicles. You're fully separated. It's done. I read that sentence 5 times. Each time, I felt something else drop off my shoulders. I didn't reply right away. I just sat there for a while, letting the weight of it sink in. Then I replied, "Thank you," and closed the laptop. No one from my family tried calling after that. Not that day. Not the next. I think they finally understood. I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't trying to make a point or prove something. I was gone. They pushed me out of their lives, and now they were watching it happen in real time. Only now, it was the bank, the landlord, and the reality of consequences pushing back. I never wanted revenge. I just wanted space. But when they took everything I gave and turned it into a weapon against me, they left me with nothing else. I gave them 100 chances to act like people. They chose ego. They chose pride. They chose cruelty. And now they could live in the ruins they built together. I tucked Finn in that night and told him he was safe. He asked if the bad people were still mad. I told him maybe, but it didn't matter anymore. We weren't going back. We had already left. I thought that once the eviction notice landed and the accounts locked up, that would be the end of it, that they'd cut their losses, point fingers among themselves, and finally accept that I wasn't crawling back to clean up their mess. But what I failed to consider, somehow, even after everything, was just how far desperate people will go when the walls start caving in and they have no more excuses left to hide behind. It started with a knock at my apartment building that didn't come from the front door. Someone had tried to follow a delivery driver inside and gotten stopped by the front desk manager, who thankfully didn't hesitate to send them back outside. The next morning, I found a message in my inbox from someone I hadn't seen in over 10 years, an old friend of Brielle's, a woman named Trina who I remembered mostly for how loud her laugh was at every family barbecue. Her message was polite, wrapped in concern, layered with all the usual guilt-soaked buzzwords. "Your mom is heartbroken," she wrote. "She's not eating, barely sleeping. She says she's afraid she'll never see your grandson again. Is that really what you want?" I didn't answer. I didn't trust that silence would be respected, so I blocked her email and deleted the message. But deep down, I knew this meant something had shifted. They were running out of allies, and now they were pulling favors from anyone left who still bought the old narrative that I was the problem and they were just trying to keep the family together. It was the same story they always told when things got uncomfortable, that I was difficult, that I was dramatic, that I couldn't let go of the past. They told it so often that I think even they believed it after a while. I got a voicemail that afternoon from Clay. "I know we screwed up, all right," he said, voice low and cracked. "But this isn't just about us anymore. Mom's not okay. She's not getting out of bed. Dad's still gone, and we don't even know where the hell he is. You've made your point, okay? Please stop this. Just stop." I didn't respond. There was nothing else to say. I wasn't punishing them. I had simply chosen to live without them. There's a difference between vengeance and boundaries, and they still hadn't figured that out. Every call, every text, every guilt-laced attempt to drag me back was just another reminder that they never actually saw me as a person. Just a utility, a solution, a failsafe. And now, with the safety net gone, they were feeling the free fall for the first time. That night, while Finn slept, I scrolled through my phone and saw that Denise had posted a blurry photo on her Facebook. It was of our family's old house, half-packed boxes scattered on the porch, and the caption read, "Some people don't understand what family means until it's too late." There were comments underneath from neighbors, people we used to know, offering sympathy without knowing the story. "Stay strong. Family always finds a way." Praying for healing. I didn't comment. I didn't watch it spiral. I logged out and took a long shower, letting the water drown out every word I just read. A week later, I got a final envelope in the mail from the landlord. Inside was a copy of the lease termination, a receipt showing that the outstanding balance was never paid, and a notice that the locks had been changed. I put the envelope on top of the trash bags in the closet, the ones they threw at my feet on Christmas, and I stood there looking at it all for a long minute. Not because I wanted to keep it, not because I needed a reminder, but because I wanted to feel the finality of it. I wanted to recognize that this chapter, no matter how chaotic and painful it had been, was over. 2 days later, Finn and I drove out of the city for the weekend. Just a short trip. I'd found a small cabin upstate that didn't cost much, surrounded by trees and trails. I didn't tell anyone where we were going. I just packed our bags, loaded the car, and hit the road before noon. When we got there, Finn ran around the cabin shouting about how he was going to build a fortress in the woods, and I watched him from the porch, finally letting myself breathe. That night, we lit a small fire, roasted marshmallows, and he fell asleep on my chest under a blanket while the fire crackled nearby. I stared at the stars above us and realized I didn't feel haunted anymore. Not by them. Not by their words. Not by what they did or what they failed to do. Back at home, I received one last message that I didn't expect. It wasn't a call, not a voicemail, just a package. No return address, but I knew who sent it. Inside was an old photo album. My childhood. Pictures of me and Clay building snowmen, me and Brielle in Halloween costumes, Denise holding me in the hospital room. Tucked inside the front cover was a small note, written in her handwriting, "In case you ever decide to come back." I closed the album and slid it under my bed. Not to keep, not to forget, but because some things don't deserve fire or fanfare, they just deserve silence. That was the last time I heard from any of them. No more texts. No more messages through friends. Nothing on social media. Just silence. Exactly what I asked for. Finn started sleeping better, eating more, laughing louder. He brought home a drawing from school, a house with 2 stick figures out front, labeled me and Dad. I taped it to the fridge and smiled every time I passed it. That drawing meant more than any family dinner or apology ever could. Sometimes people ask me if I'll ever speak to them again, if I'd go back if they apologized. I tell them I don't think about it much. Not because I don't care anymore, but because I finally care more about myself. And about Finn. That's who I'm building a life for now. Not them. Not the people who showed me I was disposable when it suited them. I gave everything I had. They laughed while they stripped me bare. And now they're ghosts. I don't know where they are now. I don't ask. I don't check. I don't need to. They made their choice. And I made mine. We're not the same anymore. We haven't been for a long time. And the moment they told me I wasn't family, they handed me the freedom to walk away without looking back.